Hello. I want to go ahead and give a big trigger warning for this video because I'm going to be discussing some disturbing content and subject matter. I'm not going to be using any abbreviation of terms, so I don't want anyone to get triggered by that. So, with those trigger warnings in mind, going to go ahead. I want to go ahead and state right off the bat this isn't clickbait, okay? With everything that's come out with Ashton Kutcher lately, it reminded me of back in 2017. Maybe you remember, he testified or gave an opening statement in front of Senate about sex trafficking. Now, he was there to represent the Thorn organization, which at that time he was the chairman and co founder of. So he was there to give an opening statements, on their behalf about the work that they do. And I went back and took a look at that because now in hindsight, I was just kind of just curious to see what it said. I remember at the time that I was kind of sitting there rolling my eyes like, why is Ashton Kutcher testifying about sex trafficking? At the time, I do remember seeing some of his speech. He gave a very good speech, a charismatic speech. He associated himself with the Thorn organization, which works for sex trafficking, which is very noble. He also associated himself with the FBI in that speech, which gave him credibility. At the beginning of the speech, he was flattering Senate. He was very humble. He said he came from the public education system, came off like a pretty good patriot. And so by the time he kind of made what I look back on in hindsight as an insane statement, no one was really questioning it too much because all the layers that he built up around these statements that he made were so good. By the time he made these major red flag statements, none of us questioned it. And so I want to go back and I want to read to you. I encourage everyone to go back and look at his whole testimony and see if in hindsight he doesn't just come off looking like a really big BSer. And I hate to say that, maybe I'm wrong, but just go back and look at it for yourself. I want to read to you, though, the red flag statements that I'm concerned about and see if you have the same concerns that I do. This is saying here it's Ashton Kutcher, opening statement to the Senate Foreign Relations Committee on ending modern slavery and human trafficking. I'm going to read this to you. I'll play a portion of it for you at the end so that you can hear how he says it. He does get emotional on this, and I don't want you to be biased. So I just want to read it to you. I've been on FBI raids where I've seen things that no person should ever see. I've seen video content of a child that's the same age as mine being raped by an American man that was a sex tourist in Cambodia. And this child was so conditioned by her environment that she thought she was engaging in play. Okay. Now, at the time, due to the context of his speech, that didn't seem that crazy. But I'm taking issue with it now because one, he says he was going on FBI raids, which I take issue with because he's an actor. And yes, he's a very accomplished, rich entrepreneur, but none of that qualifies you to go on raids with the FBI, much less sex trafficking raids. So I question that in hindsight, and I'm wondering why nobody else had questions about that at the time. And then he made the second part of his statement. He literally says right in front of Senate that I watched video content of a child being raped. And because, he's already associated himself with the FBI and Thorn, I think no one really questioned it. But I'm questioning it because just because he's a spokesperson for Thorn, none of that means that he should have to watch that content. If he went on FBI raids, was he trying to imply that he was on these FBI raids and they found video footage maybe? And so he was forced to watch it somehow? Like the FBI found these materials and they let an actor watch it? Or if that's not true, then the only other thing I can think of is somehow he was able to watch that material through the Thorn organization. And even if you had access to that material, why on earth would you watch it? He's the chairman. I would say forget it. I'm paying you to watch that stuff. I don't have the qualifications for that. Speaking of qualifications, I went back. I looked back at what degrees he might have. And when I went back and looked, yeah, he graduated from high school in Iowa. I think he went to 2 different high schools. He did say that he went on to do biochemical engineering. He started in that program. He was, discovered by a talent scout in 2010. Kutcher was named one of Time Magazine's top 100 most influential people. He created the Demi and Ashton Foundation to eliminate child sex slavery worldwide. All right. None of that qualifies him to go on FBI raids. I also looked at the eligibility to be a special agent in the FBI. I believe like entry level agent requirements are listed, and you can go ahead and look those up for yourself. But I'm assuming like if you're going on sex trafficking raids, I'm just thinking that you would be a special agent. Now, that the entry level didn't say you had to have a bachelor's degree. There were some standard things in there, like, you have to pay your taxes, you can't be convicted of a felon. That's for entry level. For the special agent, you have to be at least 23 years old. You have to apply before your 36th birthday. You have to possess a valid driver's license. And this is the educational part. You have to have a bachelor's degree and at least 2 years full-time professional experience, or have an advanced degree, at least 1 year of full-time professional work experience. Well, Ashton Kutcher doesn't have that. He has to meet the physical fitness requirements. Like, Ashton doesn't have that. You have to be able to obtain top secret sensitive compartmentalized SCI clearance. Ashton Kutcher doesn't have any of that. So then I was wondering, the picture he paints out, I had a picture in my head like Ashton Kutcher is going on these raids. So then I just did a quick Google search, and I tried to find articles or any like footage that I could find of what happened. And I'm going to tell you, I didn't search too far because I just came across one article. Here's the article, and it's from the Daily Journal Archives. All right. Police say Ashton Kutcher was an observer at child porn raids. And this is dated, which is curious. It's February 25th, 2012, and it was updated on July 12th, 2017. Now, this hearing that took place in front of Senate, where Ashton Kutcher gave his opening statement, it was in February 2017. So I'm wondering if maybe some other people weren't kind of concerned about the statement that Ashton made and went on and were like looking up this article. And I'm wondering if they didn't have to go back then and then like update it to give clarification, because people like me were like, wait a minute, why was he going on FBI raids? And I just want to read this bottom portion here. I don't know if this was in the original article or not, but I think this statement is interesting. Okay. It says, Mr. Kutcher observed the operation on behalf of the DNA Foundation, Garcia said. Current case law and San Jose Police Department policy prohibits civilian ride-along and observers from entering residencies during search warrants or other police enforcement action. Mr. Kutcher did not enter any residencies and was not involved in any enforcement action, Garcia said. Okay, so isn't that interesting? It sounds to me like they're trying to distance himself from Ashton Kutcher. Like they're trying to say, no, we're professionals. We didn't just allow some actor to come on a porn raid with us. Like, he was standing outside. He was just watching. That's what that sounds like to me. And furthermore, it's the San Jose Police Department. Okay, and they're the ones making the statement. It's not the FBI. So I could be very wrong about all of this. I want to be wrong about all of this. If people can come back and explain it to me, or just tell me what actually went on. Like, I just have questions, not making any allegations about anything. These things are just in hindsight disturbing to me, and I want some clarification for them. So again, with this, now I'm thinking that Ashton Kutcher maybe just, I'm not sure what his involvement was in these FBI raids, but I'm wondering if maybe he didn't kind of like blow it up, or maybe us in our own minds, we blew it up to think it was something more than it actually was. So with that out of the way, we're taking a look at whether or not Ashton should have been on these FBI raids. That's all questionable. So we get to the second part of his statement where he says he was watching a child be raped he's watching a video of a child being raped. I mean, let's think about that statement. I mean, he said that right in front of Congress. No one said, wait, 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 stop right there. What do you mean you watched a video of a child being raped? You're Ashton Kutcher. Yeah, you're a really good entrepreneur and you're an actor. And yeah, you're here representing the Thorn organization. And yeah, you're telling us you went on these FBI raids. But none of that would mean that you had to watch any of these videos. So if Ashton Kutcher didn't get these materials from the FBI, then I'm left to think, well, okay, the only other way that Ashton would have been able to be around these materials is either in his own personal life, he was watching this, or through the Thorn organization. And so that leads me to wonder, I looked up some information on the Thorn organization, and yes, they do collect images of child sexual abuse materials, is what they call them. They don't call them child pornography. They like to make the distinction because when you say child pornography, you can associate that with adult pornography. And we all know adult pornography, it's legal, it's consensual, and it's between adults. Child pornography, there's nothing consensual about that. It's with children, and it is definitely not legal. I was on their website and they do something called hashing and matching. I guess they have software that will identify these images. It encodes it basically, and it says that it'll give a digital fingerprint for the materials. And then that digital fingerprint, they kind of let it out into the internet. It searches for a likeness like itself, and when it finds it, it will remove it. And the whole point of that is to like encrypt the data so no one has to really see it and then go out and like seek out the same images. It's just a way of like to try to find the imaging by using encoding and basically trying to eliminate like human involvement with having to see the materials and having to remove the materials. And that gives the victims dignity as well, because then they're not worried about people seeing these materials, even in an attempt to help them remove it from the internet, which is a good idea. But it's my understanding Ashton gave a lot of money to develop the software, and then it was given to law enforcement. So I'm wondering if was there something in the development of the software that Ashton was maybe around these materials? If so, that shouldn't have happened. I'm assuming that anyone who is around those materials has to be vetted and have a background check because quite frankly, I mean, even if you are someone with good intentions, if you don't have the educational background and you're not vetted to be around those materials so that you can help victims, you just shouldn't be around it at all, because if a good person can find a way to be around those materials, then that means a bad person could find a way, around the educational backgrounds without being vetted to get to that material. And if you think about it, if you were a pedophile, what would be the perfect cover than to do something like that, to develop software, to align yourself with law enforcement, to align yourself with this great organization that works towards sex trafficking and works, to remove child sexual abuse content from the internet. That if you were a pedophile, you would align yourself with all those things so that you could fly under the radar and people wouldn't question you. And then, you end up in a situation where like here Ashton is, he's making a statement in front of Senate saying that he's watched this content even though he has no background to be doing this, and no one batted an eye. That's just crazy. And I feel like we all failed in that moment. And, the Me Too movement came after that. Hopefully, I would like to think we were smarter before that, but hopefully we're definitely smarter after that. But I hope we've learned enough by now to know that anytime anyone makes these statements, we need to stop and just look at what they're actually saying. It doesn't make any sense that Ashton Kutcher himself would need to see these materials. Much less he makes a point to say that he's a father, and he makes a point to say this is content of a child being raped that's the same age as my daughter. And he's so kind of indignant about it. But my question is, so why were you watching it? I know fathers who, if they were forced to watch something like that, their brains would break. I mean, those are topics you generally just don't even bring up to fathers because it definitely does something in them. It sets off this primal reaction. So I can't imagine actually sitting there and watching that material and what circumstances did that actually happen. And now in hindsight, I I think there's some questions that need to be asked, and I think we all need some answers. Where did he get the material? Was it from the FBI? Was it from the Thorn organization? Or was he watching it on his own devices? Those are the questions that I have. And quite frankly, it's unfortunate because he did associate himself with the FBI and the Thorn organization. And now that means the FBI and the Thorn organization are now associated with Ashton Kutcher. And Ashton Kutcher did not respect that. Okay. He did not respect his role and his associations with those agencies. And so when he went and made the conscious decision to go and write character letters on behalf of a convicted rapist, even though he was associated with these organizations, now he's called into question not only his own character, but he's called into question the character and the integrity of the FBI and of the Thorn organization, which is absolutely just disgusting and ridiculous. So if anyone has like more information about this, please let me know in the comments or send me links. I'll try to add as many links to this as I can so that you can look up this information yourself. There's plenty of other things that I want to say about this situation. I'm probably going to do a whole separate video about this murder that Ashton Kutcher was involved in. There's a man who has a YouTube channel growing up in Scientology, Aaron Smith Levin, and he's saying some wild things. He's saying that Ashton Kutcher, yes, he was supposed to go on a date with someone who ended up being murdered. This ex-Scientologist is coming out and saying that basically Ashton Kutcher lied to police about him not discovering this person's body. And it's wild. And I'm going to go ahead and do a video about that. But that's something that you should just go out. You can look up yourself. Again, it's growing up in Scientology. His name's Aaron Smith Levin. Go see what he has to say. He's saying some insane things about Ashton Kutcher, and he's not even saying allegedly. He's saying, this is information that I have. I have the sources for it, and if he wants to sue me, he can go ahead and take me to court because I want this information to come out. And I mean, that's talk about putting your money where your mouth is. I mean, he's putting it all on the line there. Having said that, I'm going to go ahead and close this out. I'll let you watch Ashton Kutcher giving this statement himself. So maybe in hindsight, after this video, when you watch it, maybe you'll see what I'm seeing. Like there's just something strange here. Go ahead, keep an eye out. I have a few more things. Like I said, I want to talk about the murder, and then I might go ahead and react to this full 15-minute video.
I've been on FBI raids where I've seen things that no person should ever see. I've seen video content of a child that's the same age as mine being raped by an American man that was a sex tourist in Cambodia. And this child was so conditioned by her environment that she thought she was engaging in play.